Hello everyone, this is Tom Fox. I'm the Compliance Evangelist, and I'd like to welcome you to the August edition of my 1 month to a more effective compliance program series that I'm running throughout 2017. This month will be 1 month to more effective continuous improvement. My sponsor this month is Affiliated Monitors. Founded in 2004, Affiliated Monitors provides professional, independent integrity monitoring and ethics and compliance assessments nationally and internationally and across all industries. With its knowledge of effective ethics and compliance programs and cultures, Affiliated Monitors is respected for its work as the corporate monitor on matters ranging from multinational corporations to small and mid-sized companies, and even individuals. Having served in over 500 monitorships, no one has more experience as an independent monitor than the team at Affiliated Monitors. For more information on how an independent monitor can help improve your company's ethics and compliance program, I would urge you to visit Affiliated Monitors at www.affiliatedmonitors.com. As I indicated, this month we're going to look at 1 month to more effective continuous improvement. We're going to consider auditing and monitoring, the different types of auditing that you can do, from third-party auditing, supply chain, data risk auditing, culture auditing, auditing against fraud. We're going to talk about control testing. We're going to look at continuous improvement through the use of big data. We're going to look at measuring effectiveness, risk-based monitoring, email sweeps as monitoring, and listening as continuous monitoring. I think you're going to find it a fascinating month, and I'm sure at the end of the month you will have picked up multiple lessons on what you can do to improve your compliance program around continuous improvement. This is Tom Fox. Thank you very much for joining me on this episode, and I hope you'll join me for the entire month. This 2017 1 month to a better compliance program podcast series is a part of the Compliance Podcast Network. Day 13, Big Data and Continuous Improvement. Today I continue my discussion of continuous improvement by using big data in a best practices compliance program. I want to move on with some thoughts on how to use big data going forward. And I'm going to focus on a chapter of a book. The book is called Planning for Big Data, a CIO's Handbook to the Changing Data Landscape, and a chapter by a fellow named Alistair Croll entitled The Feedback Economy. Big data allows continuous improvement through the feedback economy. This is a step beyond the information economy because you are using the information that you have generated and collected as a source of information going to guide you going forward. Information itself is not the greatest advantage, but using that information to prevent, detect, and remediate in a compliance program is, and I would certainly add that continuous improvement is a part of that. Here the author drew on military theory to illustrate his concept of feedback loop. It's called the OODA or OODA loop. It stands for Observe, Orient, Detect, and Act, and it comes from military strategist John Boyd, who realized that combat consists of observing your circumstances, reorienting yourself to the enemy's way of thinking and your environment, deciding upon a course of action, and then acting on it. Croll believes that the success of the OODA is in large part the fact because it's a loop. It shows that the results of earlier actions feed back into later, hopefully wiser decisions that you make going forward. This should allow combatants to get inside their opponent's loop, outsmarting and outmaneuvering them, because the system itself learns. For any CCO or compliance practitioner, this means that if your compliance program is able to collect and analyze information better, you can act on that information faster, and you can have better continuous improvement. One of the greatest impediments to using the OODA feedback loop is the surplus of noise in data. To overcome this, you need to move through and put robust systems in which allow this to be removed. So how do you collect, analyze, and then act on the data? The first step is because of the sheer amount of data coming in. It's obviously got to be ingested and cleaned. If it comes into your organization in an unstructured way, you need to cut it up so that it can be used on the database. Frequently, you can cut chunks of data so they can be analyzed in parallel, so the data can be considered and acted upon more quickly. The technique is to build a pipeline of processing steps, each optimized for the particular task. Another important component in compliance is machine learning, and that's something that you should avail yourselves of. We're trying to find the signal within the noise to discern the patterns. Humans can't always find the signal by themselves, so machines can work at a lower signal-to-noise ratio. It's as important to note, however, there is no substitute for human eyes and ears. Because many CCOs and compliance practitioners, in displaying the data, that's the most difficult thing for them to get their head around because it's not in a readable form. To say lawyers or compliance practitioners who are lawyers are not as proficient as other corporate types in Excel or similar tools would seem to be stating the obvious. Yet, it is about as sophisticated as many compliance practitioners can get. It's important to portray data in more visual styles to help convey the dozens of independent data sources into navigable 3D environments. Of course, having all this data is zero use unless you act upon it. Corporate data or big data can be used in a wide variety of compliance decision-making, from hiring to firing, strategic planning to market positioning, and in the shift in compliance thinking as well. Once again, lawyers are ill-suited to consider such information, yet this is the reason why compliance has evolved from Compliance 1.0 from the last decade to Compliance 2.0, 3.0, and now beyond. Big data allows you to make quicker assessments of the impact of measured risks. It advocates faster iterative learning. And if that's not as good a intro into continuous improvement, I'm frankly not sure what is. Big data supply chain is literally an organizational OODA loop. But unlike a standard loop, it's more than simply about the loop and plugging information as you move through it. It's about feedback, obtaining the impact of risk that you have accepted. For this to work in compliance, a company's compliance discipline needs to understand and choose between a course of action based upon the results, then observe what happens and use that information to collect new data and analyze things going forward in a different way. It's truly a process of continuous improvement. The three prongs of any best practices compliance program are prevent, detect, and remediate. When you consider the OODA loop or big data supply chain feedback, this process, coupled with data available to you, should facilitate a more agile, directed compliance program. The feedback components in this process allow you to make adjustments literally on the fly, or in the parlance of this month's podcast series, in continuous improvement. When you have this information, it allows you to act upon it in a much more quick and efficient manner. If you have either been in front of the Department of Justice since the institution of the Compliance Council, or you've talked to or heard a compliance officer speak who has been in front of the Compliance Council, formerly Wei Chin, you know that she was very data-driven. But more than simply what's the data, her question was how did you use that data? Her questioning along those lines, I think, is borne out in the Evaluation of Corporate Compliance Program documents that was released in February. It really cannot be overemphasized that it's how you use the data. So what are today's three key takeaways? Number one, use big data to continuously improve and update your compliance program. Number two, the OODA loop is an excellent way to think about using data to continuously improve or using data for continuous improvement. And then finally, don't worry, compliance practitioners, a robot's not going to take your place because you always have to remember the human element. This is Tom Fox. Thank you very much for listening to this episode of 1 month to more effective continuous improvement, and I hope you'll join me tomorrow for day 14. This is Tom Fox again. I'd like to thank you for listening to this episode of 1 month to more effective continuous improvement in your compliance program. If you have listened to this podcast on iTunes, please rate this podcast. It was a help in our rankings, and also get the word out about the only daily podcast to help you improve your compliance program. If you have any questions, you can email me at tfox@tfoxlaw.com. This is Tom Fox. I'm the Compliance Evangelist, and you've been listening to 1 month of more effective continuous improvement from the Compliance Podcast Network.